Hi guys, I'm back with another Founder Friday video. I'm back home. Last week I was out in South Lake Tahoe. It was beautiful. Got to spend some time with family. It was much needed. But I'm going back to my book kind of series, I guess, because there are multiple videos of this, but reading from Amy Vanderbilt's Everyday Etiquette. So today I have it, and I wanted to kind of focus just because we're quarantining, so there's not many opportunities for hosting parties or talking about restaurant or hotel etiquette. So let's skip on down for those parents at home with their kids to the teenagers section and explore some of the topics that they talk about in the teenagers section. This first is about dates. So these are all young girls or boys writing in about dates and discussing dates with their parents and what they should do on dates, and it's really cute. Let's get into it. So the first one is, I'm 14, but my parents won't permit me to go on a date because they say I'm too young. The boy I like keeps asking me to go out with him, and I have explained I'd like to, but I can't. What do you suggest I do? From BJW in Chicago, Illinois. Amy suggests, talk it over with your parents and see if they can come to some understanding with you in the matter of limited dates with limited hours and specific places to which you are allowed to go. It's very quality, sound advice. It's very difficult, I think. I just imagine my nephew is 10, and to think of in 4 years him being like, well, I want to go out with a girl. Like, how can I'm like, I can't even imagine. It seems young to me too. But 14, chaperoned, again, pretty sound advice, specific hours, limited dates, limited hours, and knowing exactly where they are doesn't seem like much of an issue to me. Next question. When I take out my girl, who is considerably shorter than I, same, and it begins to rain, should I let her carry the umbrella and walk out in the rain, or should I attempt, in spite of the disparity of our heights, to hold it over her? GCG, Battle Creek, Michigan. Amy suggests you hold it over her unless you are so burdened with packages that this seems impossible, in which case she walks under the umbrella and you walk outside of it. Oh no! That hardly seems fair. Nowadays, she would naturally have her own umbrella and naturally would probably walk, or they would be that cute movie scene where it's like you have the umbrella and they're hunched holding each other close. You could also do that, but nobody's standing outside in packages holding packages while she gets to walk ahead with the umbrella. That is not equal or fair or right, because they're probably either a mixture of packages. No, she's holding her own packages. It's cute, but it's not realistic for today's I don't think it's realistic for today's dynamic of relationship. Next question. I've always been very fussy about my dates and refuse to go out with boys who are unattractive looking. I figured that if I am seen with one of them, more attractive boys will pass me by, figuring I can't do any better. Ooh. My sister says the idea, though, is to keep in circulation, and any date is better than no date. Who is right? By E.H. Easton, Connecticut. Girl. Amy suggests, some of the most attractive men I've ever known have been quite homely. One of the things a girl gets to know in time is that a handsome man is not necessarily the most attractive escort. If you have been sitting home a lot lately, I would agree with your sister that almost any date is better than none. If you do circulate, you are likely to meet someone in time who will really appeal to you. On the other hand, never accept an invitation from a boy you really dislike, just for the sake of the entertainment he can offer. He is sure to sense your feelings during the course of the evening. Under such circumstances, it is always more fun to stay home with a good book. That's a very well-rounded answer, because it's true. just because a man is not traditionally attractive, or a boy, I should say, doesn't mean that he doesn't have a great personality. He can't provide a great evening. He's not funny, witty. There's all these other factors that go into being attractive. And I feel like when you're young, sometimes you only focus on the physical appearance without realizing, like, hey, this person's like incredibly just an amazing person, and that makes him so much more attractive to me. It gets lost at young ages. So I'm glad that this is, again, it's very sound advice. It's true too that sometimes people who are very attractive don't have to work as hard as being an interesting person, and you end up being out with a vapid, not fun, not entertaining in any way person, and you end up being bored even though they're handsome and you are quote unquote in circulation, which I have so many problems with. Again, sometimes we go through these books, it's always so interesting to read this. I'm reading another book right now that I'm going to feature at some point. I'm going to feature at some point, but I have to go through and kind of like pick out sections because it is a controversial topic, you guys. So controversial. Anyways, let's keep going. So, says, some of the fellows in our neighborhood have a habit of calling up girls they don't know, trying to make blind dates. Sometimes they call me and some of my girlfriends saying they know who we are through fellows in high school. That's creepy. My mother says I should have nothing to do with them. Good job, Mom. But it seems all right to me. No, I said I'd ask you. JWI from Newark, New Jersey. Amy suggests your mother is right. Blind dates are very dangerous unless they are arranged by someone you actually know and trust. Even then, it is safer to take another couple along on a blind date. This way, you have some protection in the event of some disagreeable occurrence. Boys who do their blind dating in packs on telephones are usually pretty poor pickings themselves, or they wouldn't have to get dates this way. Ooh, burn. I agree with all of that. Blind dates, one, are always scary, even when you know the person who has suggested this individual. It's just not a good idea to have some random strange boy call you and be like, hey, you want to go out on a date? I know you through a friend. That's so creepy. So creepy. Oh, God. Tell me if you think it's creepy, because I think that's creepy. Next and final question, I think, for this time. This is all about dates. I'll probably go on to some other questions. There's so many good ones in here. So I might just, again, keep this going in the series, and maybe next Founder Friday we can do another teenagers section. Let's see. Oh, this one's a relevant one for anybody that is having issues with dating a shy guy. So, I am a girl 15 and have started going steady with a boy who is very quiet. Whenever he calls me, I have nothing to say to start a conversation. What could I say to him to start a conversation? From DM in Pasadena, California. First, you're much too young to go steady. Ooh. But the best way to get a boy to talk is to ask him a question about himself. Most people, especially teenagers, are only too ready and willing to talk about themselves, whereas it is often difficult for them to talk about impersonal things, especially when a conversation is just beginning. That is why convention has us ask, "How are you?" To which the traditional reply is, "Fine, thank you. How are you?" Conversations, like automobiles, have to warm up. Therefore, don't be afraid of the tried and true subjects as beginners, such as weather, school activities, sports, etc. Eventually, as young boys and girls get to know each other, they can get into fairly deep subjects. I will remember. So yeah, it starts, like she says, it's like an automobile. It takes time to warm up. So if you're having trouble speaking with a shy guy or a shy girl, just start with how are you and work your way from there. Again, there's not much to talk about in quarantine, but if you're like me and you've got project upon project upon project that you've been working on, that is a subject that never, like I personally feel, never gets old. What are you reading? What are you playing? What are you doing? Just asking them about their day and about them in particular is a very good advice to kind of leap into conversation. But yeah, there's, like I said, there's tons of good ones. Do I want to read another one before this video ends? Let's see. Let's go through the questions and let's pick the best one. I'm a girl of 15. My mother says nice girls don't call up boys. I think this has changed, don't you? MDS in Phoenix, Arizona. Next question would be, I'm a teenage boy and I get a lot of calls from a girl I can't stand. Her mother is a friend of my mother's and my mother says I have to be polite. I say I have a right to go out with the girls I pick and this girl should be made to stop chasing me. What do you say? T.S. Jr. in New York, New York. Next question. Recently I double dated and afterward the other boy called me up and asked me for a date. My mother says that I shouldn't accept it unless we inform both the other boy and the other girl involved of our intention of going out together. Do you think this is necessary? Miss J.E.O. Bellois, Wisconsin. Woo boy. Woo boy. These are all good questions. Let's just go through them because that I don't know about you, but I haven't read this section in a while, so I really want to go through and reread because my mind is not fresh on what the answers were to these questions. So, first one, I'm a girl of 15. My mother says nice girls don't call up boys. I think this has changed, don't you? MTS, Phoenix, Arizona. Before Amy answers, this has definitely changed. Girls can ask guys out. I personally prefer to be asked out, but in this day and age, it's all equal. You do you. Like, ask away. But Amy says, yes, it has changed somewhat. A girl should really have some excuse for calling up a boy unless she wants to seem to be chasing him. Perhaps she needs to call him about homework or to invite him to a dance or, under certain circumstances, to some entertainment at her own home. If she knows the boy very well and sees him all the time, she could call him just to talk as she might any other friend, but she should be very careful not to overdo it. Interesting. Again, it's all equal, it's all fair nowadays, but it's still sound advice. You never want to seem like you're, I shouldn't say overly eager because some people will, I guess overly eager. Some people find that annoying, so you don't want to, like, lose out before the game is gone, you know? Next question. This is, I want to know this one. I'm a teenage boy and I get a lot of calls from girls I can't stand. Her mother is a friend. I get a lot of calls from a girl I can't stand. Her mother is a friend of my mother's and my mother says I have to be polite. I say I have a right to go out with the girls I pick and this girl should be made to stop chasing me. What do you say? Again, this is T.S. Jr. from New York, New York. T.S. Oh boy, I agree. Like, it's so awkward and it's so hard. Like, you still have to be nice, but at the same time, if you're not interested, you're not interested. And I don't know what the mom's games were, if they wanted these two to, like, get closer because they're really good friends. They're like, oh my God. It's like that fantasy of, like, oh my God, if we put them together, then they'll marry and they'll have grandbabies and we'll be best friends for life. Like, it could be one of those things, but if he's not into it, don't make him. I hope they didn't force him, but this is what Amy suggests. Perhaps it's the mothers who are to blame, not the girl. That's what I said. Undoubtedly, the girl is being told by her mother to include you in her various entertainment plans. Perhaps you should accept an occasional invitation, but any girl will get the idea in time that you're not interested in her. It is not necessary that you squire her around on your own initiative, you know. If you don't invite her to go out with you in turn, she'll find another boy who'll enjoy her company for her own sake, not because he's asked by his mother to act as her escort. Of course, mothers should know such machinations are usually most ineffective. Perfect advice. Very ineffective. And it just, it hurts both kids. It hurts the girl and it hurts the boy, and it's not fun. Next question, last question. Recently, I double dated, and afterwards, the other boy called me up and asked me for a date. Ugh! My mother says that I shouldn't accept it unless we inform both the other boy and the other girl involved of our intention of going out together. Do you really think this is necessary? Miss J.E.O., Belvoir, Wisconsin. Oh, Miss J.E.O. This is a tricky situation. Let me see what... We'll see what Amy says, and then I'll weigh in. Amy says, as you met through the boy who took you to the dance, I think it would be good manners for the second boy to ask the first if he minded if he invited you as his own date on the occasion you mention. At the same time, if you know the other girl well, you might ask her if she has any objection to your going out with her previous date. If the two had been dating steadily, your action might be otherwise seem like beau stealing. However, as so much dating is so very casual, very probably neither will object if you two have a date together after having met this way. It is nice to ask, however, but you should be prepared to refuse the date if the other girl is obviously hurt or the boy with whom you went out at first seems upset. If the attraction between you two newly met young people is very strong, then of course, later on you probably would date anyhow. It is good manners to be sporting about these relationships, even at the most casual stage. Just think how you might feel if the whole situation were reversed. That is good advice. Think of how you would feel if everything were reversed. That's a tricky situation. In today's age, I think it's different because, again, she's saying that it seems like in order for young people to go out, they went out in pairs, like they would casually date and kind of go out and about. So it may not make a huge difference between who you're dating, like especially as we discovered in the last one, you're just trying to stay in circulation. Circulation. But I think this is just all around very good advice. If one of the people is offended, just be like, hey, they're offended, they don't like it. I like you. I would really like to go out in future. Maybe you can ask me in like a month or so, like when maybe the emotions aren't so high. So I think waiting to hear the opinion of either of the two parties, still remaining friends, and if that attraction blooms into something more, working it out and kind of like just seeing where it goes. I think that's, again, very sound advice. Mrs. Vanderbilt had very good advice. So that's today's reading of Everyday Etiquette. Again, this book was not written because this is a compilation of different advice columns throughout the years. So last copyright was 1956 by Amy Vanderbilt. And so I love reading this because it helps give a look back into the times, what people were living, what people were experiencing. And there was a lot of flack given to teenagers in the old days, like back in the 50s. I think teenagers always kind of get the rebellious end of the stick, like where it's like, oh, like they're going through this phase. But it's nice to just get their perspective and to have somebody weigh in on the comments and of what they are experiencing. And then just kind of, I enjoy weighing in on what the answer to that question might be today, because again, times have changed. There's still very much the same. A lot of situations, a lot of circumstances are still very much the same, but it's just very interesting to see the difference or to see the similarities between now and then. But yeah, that's Founder Friday today. I will be back next week with a different Founder Friday. Again, I'll probably do another Amy Vanderbilt because there are some really good questions in the remainder of this teenager section. So I can go through there again, but I do have a lot of new magazines from the 50s and 60s, some 40s, and I just got another book that has been very interesting. So if I if I succumb to how crazy the topics are in discussion in that book, I might do a feature on that one instead. But I think next week we'll come back with this. So I'll see you then. Bye.